All right, so let's go on with Monday Bible study. It's a little late for those that catch this on Facebook. Made a very long Facebook post, or I would have got it in before midnight. Um, yeah, that's long. But to all that read it, even if it's just one, really might help out. Trump on Jimmy Fallon. They all love him. Everybody's like, well, how can he be the Antichrist? Everybody hates him. No, they pretended to hate him. They all love. You ever watch the fear of those celebrities, those Hollyweirds on the Celebrity Apprentice show? They revered him. Jimmy Fallon imitating him. It's the two Trumps, the Twin Towers, the two Trumps. They go down, one rises back up when he returns. We believe it'll be a clone that will take the hit. He will go into hiding, and then he will return seemingly from the dead. The Bible is clear, received a deadly wound, but did live. And we detail a lot of that, don't we, in a lot of our studies? Let's get on with it. We just got through reading that this horn has a mouth speaking great things. All right, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set. The books were open. I beheld them because of the voice of the great words the horn spake. Again, this horn, a mouth speaking great things in verse 8. We hear it again in verse 11. A trump is a horn, and a horn is a trump. Jesus said, I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. But if one shall come in his own name, him you will receive. Well, he's here in his own name. Trump, horn, horn, trump, synonyms. Both a horn and a trump are trumpets. Mike Pence, Trump, trumpets. Get the joke? The joke's been on you your whole life since the day you were born. And they were telling you about things like you live on a globe, you live on a spinning ball. I digress. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. You see, the real human gets destroyed, but the spirit of Satan, or the fallen angel himself, Satan, will be in torment forever. Long story, but hell is not eternal torment. The lake of fire is, but the humans have already received a second death. They have already been destroyed, receiving a second death, which was no different than the first one. Whenever they were asleep. Just like Daniel will say in chapter 12, those that sleep in the dust of the earth, some shall awaken to everlasting life, and others to everlasting contempt. The judgment is everlasting. And that's what they're going to be awakening to from their sleepy slumber. Judgment. As concerning the rest of the beast, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like unto the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, in his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. Now, you see, this takes you all the way through A to Z. That's Jesus coming in the clouds in Revelation. This is the new heaven, the new earth, and that's a snapshot, microcosm of the big picture in the book of Revelation. That's why I go back and forth from Daniel to Revelation, Daniel to Revelation. So when you read Revelation 21 and 22, you will get that new heaven, that new earth outlined for you. Him coming in the Jesus coming in the clouds, I believe that is in 14 and 19, but I'm not sure. I need to finish up my part 3 of my Revelation study. I've already overviewed this in part 1, but I've got a spreadsheet version that I want to color code and show you all throughout where there's a great tribulation, where the church is sealed, where the church is removed, where you've got wrath of God, where you've got judgment day, and items that are not literal but symbolic, like Revelation 6, 9 through 11. So and I begin it at Revelation 6, and we'll go all the way through, because that's where Revelation begins for us, is chapter 6. The rider on the white horse, receiving his crown, his corona, which just took place October 2nd. So we are here. All righty. Love y'all very much. Oh, we're going to Luke. Sorry. About 86 this Bible study, didn't I? I would have had to have started over. Let's go to Luke. Let's go over the end times here also. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all of your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed by parents, brethren, kinfolk, and friends, and some of you they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but there shall not an hair of your head perish with eternal death. Remember, it's not eternal torment, but when you receive your second death by fire. At Revelation 20, Judgment Day, when all the goats and the fallen angels, demons, or whatever you want to call them, they will encompass the camp of the saints, and fire comes down from heaven and devours them. That is the second death to the humans. And when ye shall see Jerusalem, oh my goodness, there it is right there, compassed with armies. Wow. Then know that desolation thereof is nigh. Wow. This is very interesting here. This is not talking about judgment when they encompass the camps, because they will encompass Jerusalem with armies. But it is done again at Judgment Day, when Satan is loosed for a little season. And that's when judgment is given. See that word, judgment was given unto them? You see the souls that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus. But the rest of the dead, the goats, don't live again until the 1,000 years are over with, because all of God's sheep will reign with him for 1,000 years. Then Satan is loosed out of his prison, and they gather them together to battle the number of the sand of the sea. And they went up to the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints and the beloved city in Jerusalem. and fire came down out of heaven and devoured them. That is the second death. Satan and them, the fallen angels, get torment day and night forever and ever. Says the beast and the false prophet, but that's on the spiritual. That is because the Antichrist and false prophet have the fallen ones in them. That's a long story, but that's what the mark of the beast is. That's why people can't turn back once you take the mark, because your body is now an avatar. You are what best to understand in your own mind, possession, but it's going to be much deeper than what you've ever understood possession to be. And so that's why that tripped me up, because it says, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that desolation thereof is nigh. That's talking about the abomination that causes desolation. Then let them which in Judea flee to the mountains. So there's two encompassing or compassed or compassings that take place. Once before the end of time, or before the end of the earth as we know it, because God's wrath comes to destroy that earth. And then at Judgment Day, it happens again. But this time, the sheep don't need to flee. They are safe with Jesus in the great city. That was interesting. Yeah, that's why it threw me off. I was like, what? Are we reading about judgment all this? But no, then when I saw desolation, I was like, oh, that's the abomination that causes desolation. Stand in the holy place, which you'll see. It's when the Antichrist declares himself to be God. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, which is what we're in right now, standing in the holy place, and you see people go, well, our body's a temple. Let's talk about our. The Antichrist doesn't stand in the body of a sheep. Your body's not a temple unless you're a sheep. Then your body's a temple. They will enter into the bodies of the goats. He will oppose and exalt himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's the abomination that causes. That is the abomination. And when you see this, like Jesus said in Matthew, when you see this, what is the rest of what Jesus says? Well, get out. Let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. So that's where we're at, okay, in Luke 21 and Matthew 24. Like I said, read Matthew 24. Read 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 11. Read it. All right, sorry, I had to take a little break. I'm pretty sure I know where I'm at, though. So there's going to be an encompassing of armies around Jerusalem at the time of the Antichrist, because the world is going to be in war. And the Antichrist, of course, will wipe them out. And that's where you get the who can make war with the beast, Trump, and so on and so forth, who, of course, said with his generals, maybe this is just the calm before the storm. So again, I took a break. I had to do something, but I had that highlighted. So we'll just go over it again if I already did. But when you see Jerusalem compassed with the armies, we went over that. I showed you all the Bible verses that connected that. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. And okay. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So you want to stay out when Trump returns from the dead and all of these wars are taking place. When Trump hits that stage, you got to go. But woe unto them that are with child or breastfeeding in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now you want to connect this, maybe. The only other time this is stated, this is when it gets kind of confusing. When you read Romans 11, it's talking about the true Jewish bloodline of the sheep, because the sheep have two branches. You've got the original Jewish bloodline, and then you've got the grafted in Gentiles. We're grafted in Jews. We are spiritual Jews. So, like, I'm in hope of being a sheep. If I'm a sheep, then in the Lord's eyes, I am of Israel. I am a Jew spiritually, but I am not one of a bloodline lineage. Paul is actually talking about how the bloodline was blinded from everything that the Lord had ordained that they did and were put through. And then it says, but don't be ignorant of this mystery, lest you be wise in your own conceits, that the blindness in part is happened to the Jewish bloodline lineage of the true Israel bloodlines until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And I always equated that to that the Jews will not wake up until the very last non-Jew has been called by the Lord. And once that person is called, that last non-Jewish bloodline sheep is called out of the world, which I believe takes place at the abomination that causes desolation, where God sends the whole earth a strong delusion that they will believe a lie. Well, that delusion is what. Let me start over. I started thinking about something else because I'm starving and I need to get up and go do something. I'm so stupid. Okay, let's start over. But the blindness that has happened to Israel since I lost my train of thought was to happen until the Gentiles get called. Now, there are Jews in Israel and or around the world who are sheep, but they are lost sheep. They are keeping the Torah per God's instruction, not eating pork, all of that. They are of Jewish lineage. They will get the call concerning Jesus because they're not Jesus believers right now. They're true Jews. When the last Gentile is awakened during the strong delusion that they will believe God, for God will send them a strong delusion that they will believe a lie. That is every goat. The last Gentile sheep will be awakened, and then this blindness will be no more, and they will awaken. So you go back and see how it's, again, because we've already been through two things tonight: encompassing which are in two different sections of the Bible, talking about Israel being encompassed or surrounded. And it's speaking of two different situations. Have we again come into something that is speaking of two completely different situations, or is it the same? The times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. I do not think that is talking about the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. I think this times of the Gentiles is talking about, since this is speaking in the because the Lord is speaking to the Jews who are in Judea and telling them to flee. This is not concerning us that's going on in the United States. We'll be going through our own issues. Once the Antichrist declares himself to be God standing in the holy place, and the decree is set out to worship the image of the beast, and you must make an image to the beast and worship the image of the beast, receiving the mark in your right hand or forehead, which I believe is symbolic, because I think through the poke and the arm we'll have everybody connected to the technology. Or do you even need to be connected to the technology that the demonic entities will enter into all the goats through the technology, whether you're connected to it or not? That's kind of hard for me to decipher. There's nobody out there that teaches this truth. I don't got what I'm telling you concerning all that. There's nobody else out there telling it. So I don't really have anybody to bounce it off of other just than what they've shown us in commercials, predictive programming, movies, and so forth. And even in those situations, they give you the truth, but sometimes they will lead you astray in that also. So anyway, this is difficult. I think the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled is their conquering of let's go over it one more time. Let me read it. Let me also go over it in the New Living. And see, we will check out and see if this corrupt, because the King James is a corrupted text. But these are more corrupted in many places, but sometimes these are your West Scott and Hort translations, but they are easier to read, and many times they're telling you the truth, because you can go back to the original Greek and see. For those will be the days of God's vengeance, and the prophetic words of the scriptures will be fulfilled. How terrible it will be for pregnant women and for nursing mothers in those days, for there will be disaster in the land and great anger against this people. They will be killed by the sword or sent away captives to all nations of the world, and Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end. Well, considering the fact that the Antichrist and the false prophet is part of that Gentile, they're not part of the true church. So if you're not part of the true church and you're not a sheep and you are a goat, then I think this is talking about how they've overrun that land over there, which it's already overrun. They've got a pyramid on top of the Supreme Court over there with an all-seeing eye. Pyramid on top of Israeli Supreme Court. You see, that's the Supreme Court right there. See the pyramid with the all-seeing eye on it? So that's the all-seeing eye. Same as the back of your dollar bill. They own and run everything around you. Trying to get some good pictures here. Because I've seen good pictures, I've seen better pictures and so forth. But there it is again. It's the Israeli Supreme Court. It's got a pyramid with it all. So when you come to of course, Revelation is the end times, as is Luke 21, as is Daniel 7, as is Matthew 24, as is 2 Thessalonians 2 through 11, which is why I've been telling you to read all these. It says, their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually Sodom and Egypt. Egypt, Egypt, pyramid, Egypt. It's spiritually Egypt. Where? Well, where our Lord was crucified. Israeli Supreme Court. Spiritually Egypt. It's already spiritually Sodom and Egypt. The Israel LGBT community. It's huge there. It's tremendous there. Spiritually, Sodom. Spiritually, Sodom. Spiritually, Egypt. It already is. But the two witnesses, well, that's sheep. We are all kings and priests. That speaks right to, I believe, what's taking place here. They shall fall by the edge of the sword. The kings and priests, the true church, the true sheep. Revelation 2:9. I know thou works in thy tribulation and thy poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them. Them who? Which say that they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. People that run Israel. The people that run Israel. They put a pyramid on top of the Supreme Court over there. I mean, come on. You think Benjamin Netanyahu is a sheep? You think Donald Trump, who's on the temple coin, is a sheep? He's the Antichrist. Antichrist has to declare himself to be God in the temple. Trump is on 2 temple coins. Revelation 3:9, the next chapter. Behold, I will make them, who's them? Of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end. And that would be when the Lord begins his wrath and returns and takes back the earth. I think I've got all of that right. Any questions, just ask. All right. If I'm wrong about something, give me some biblical proof and let's study it together. But I think I'm right. We only ask the Holy Spirit for the truth. Not whether I'm right. I want the truth. All right. Love you.